Hello and welcome to my video on Fire Emblem Engage. Here I'll be talking about the midpoint and see what kind of adjustments I can do to it. For the most part, I'll keep the story the same. Just try to enhance the story in ways that they were trying to go for. Think of it more of a suggestion rather than a true rewrite. For the most part, I quite enjoyed what they did with Chapter 10 and 11, but the way they executed on what they were trying to do needs some adjustments. The first change that I would do is when they entered the cathedral, instead of running all the way to the end where the altar is, you can have Hortensia stopping them at the door and question Alir about Ivy's whereabouts. Then you can have the situation where Hortensia believes that they killed Ivy for dead in the snow, and Alir has no way to prove otherwise. And there's Hyacinth who telling them that they are way too late. Well, and then there's Marth who also confirms that, telling them that they should run. However, here's the next change I would do, and instead of Alir having conflictions of what he should do, I think he should be on the side of Diamant and Alcris who to stay and fight to try and save Morian. This, in my opinion, will help create a bigger impact in Alir's character growth, with Alir's choice to proceed with the fighting being the reason why Marth and the other emblems has been taken over by the Fell Dragon's power. With this setup, it would make a lot more sense in the positioning of each of the units, where we start at the front of the cathedral and then fighting our way through all the enemies to the end where we first is Hortensia, then King Morian, then Hyacinth. King Hyacinth. And once we defeat Hyacinth, we can have the whole cutscene happen, as well as the 4 hounds coming in. This all should make relative sense. Then there's Vale stealing the emblem rings with the Dragonic Time Crystal, which complicates things a lot. The Time Crystal is just too powerful, with no clear defined limitations outside of gameplay, which makes it very hard to justify certain events happening with it in play. And I have no real solutions for that. On the flip side though, we can have Ivy breaking into the cathedral and helping Alir escape. From there, we can have Vale order the 4 hounds to chase after Ivy, while Vale summons Corrupted to chase after Alir. Later, we can have Ivy and her retainers join Alir with the 4 hounds in pursuit, just like how the map naturally progresses. Now, the nuances of the chase between Ivy and the 4 hounds is not very important, whether or not she lost them or not, and Vale calls them back to chase after Alir, or they just happen to come back there at one point or another. Not too important, I'd say, in this situation, as what is important is that they come back together into the map in such manner. This makes more sense into the way they had the story go with how the map is, and also a little tweak to the time crystal. On hard and maddening mode, you get 10 uses, but what about on this map in particular, you have 3 or 5 uses, as Vale did use the time crystal to steal the emblem rings. So to match the story and gameplay in some ways, we can do that. And that also could be a way to maybe justify Vale not using the time crystal when Ivy breaks through the cathedral. However, that is a rather weak reasoning, but better than nothing. Then, after you escape the map, Alir and company settles down for a bit and talk things out. Here, when Alir doubts his own ability as a leader, would feel more impactful with his decision on continuing the fight, or rather proceeding to fight in the cathedral instead of running away as Marth had advised. This should further the emotion or feeling the player would feel for Alir, especially since the choice of running away was never taken away from him, and he chose to stay and fight, resulting it being his fault with no real way to argue against it. Hopefully with these changes, it better justifies Chapter 10 and 11, especially as they are some of the better maps of this game. I would like you to tell me whether these are good suggestions, changes or not, and I would like to hear your ideas on the matter as well. And with that, goodbye.